pattern has been surfacing again and again in the stories you share. The people who feel the deepest, who identify as highly empathetic, sensitive, intuitive, the ones I often call the orchids or supersensors, are also the ones describing the most psychological damage. You talk about partners who twist reality until you doubt your own memory. Friends who weaponize your secrets the moment conflict appears. Family members who push you to your breaking point and then calmly label you as too sensitive. And beneath all of it, one aching question keeps repeating. Why don't they care that they're hurting me? Here's the dangerous assumption hiding underneath that question. You assume they are built like you. You assume that if you explain your pain clearly enough, patiently enough, lovingly enough, something inside them will resonate. Because that's what would happen if the roles were reversed. If someone you love told you that you hurt them, you would stop. You would reflect. You would adjust. But what if the problem isn't communication? What if it's architecture? Some personality structures are not operating on the same emotional hardware as you. They can read your feelings without sharing them. They can understand your wounds without flinching. And if you keep projecting your own conscience onto someone who doesn't possess it, in the same way, you will keep walking into the same trap. This is the part that may sting. Your empathy is not just your strength. It can also be the very signal that draws certain predators closer. Stay with me. In the next part, we're going to dissect exactly what's happening inside their minds. Don't click away. Understanding this could be the moment you finally stop blaming yourself. To understand what you have been dealing with, we have to stop using emotional language and start using structural language. This is not about good versus evil. It is about architecture. Some personalities are built around connection. Others are built around control. When you are empathetic, you assume everyone is motivated by the first. But certain individuals operate from an entirely different blueprint. Psychology groups these traits into what is often called the Dark Tetrad. The first component is narcissism. Narcissists are not always loud caricatures staring at mirrors. In fact, many are magnetic. They are socially confident, charming, and unusually skilled at making a room orbit around them. At first, this feels intoxicating. You feel chosen, seen, elevated. But beneath that polished exterior lies something fragile. Their sense of self is like glass pretending to be steel. The moment admiration dips or criticism appears, the mask fractures. What follows is not mild irritation, but injury. A narcissistic injury can trigger rage that feels wildly disproportionate to the situation. You think you are having a disagreement. They experience it as annihilation. The second trait is Machiavellianism. If narcissism is reactive, Machiavellianism is strategic. These individuals play the long game. They observe, they gather information, they test your boundaries with subtle experiments. They are less concerned with being adored and more concerned with winning. To them, relationships are not mutual bonds, but strategic arrangements. If deception advances their objective, they will deploy it without visible hesitation. Morality is not absent. It is simply negotiable. The third component is psychopathy. This is where things become biologically stark. Individuals high in psychopathic traits show reduced fear responses. The part of the brain that usually lights up in the face of danger or moral violation is quieter. This does not mean they are constantly violent. It means the internal brakes that stop most people from crossing lines are weaker. They can lie with a steady pulse. They can harm without the same physiological distress you would feel. When you wonder how they sleep at night, the unsettling answer is often that they sleep just fine. The fourth trait more recently emphasized is everyday sadism. This explains the cruelty that seems unnecessary, the teasing that goes too far, the smile that appears when you are clearly uncomfortable. For some individuals, your distress is not collateral damage. It is stimulation. Watching someone squirm can produce a small spike of reward in their system. If you are empathetic, this is nearly impossible to grasp. You assume pain is universally aversive. It is not. Now here is where the trap becomes sophisticated. You may ask how someone who lacks empathy can read you so precisely. The answer lies in a split within empathy itself. There is cognitive empathy and affective empathy. Cognitive empathy is the ability to understand what someone else is feeling. Affective empathy is the ability to feel it with them. Many manipulative personalities score high in the first and low in the second. They can map your emotional landscape without being moved by it. They know exactly which words will soothe you and which ones will destabilize you. They can mirror your vulnerabilities during the idealization phase and weaponize them during conflict. When they seem deeply attuned, it is often analysis, not resonance. This is why the beginning feels magical. During what is often called the love bombing phase, they appear profoundly connected. They finish your sentences, they validate your wounds, they reflect your values back to you with uncanny precision. It feels like destiny. But what you are experiencing is calibration. They're studying the lock while pretending to admire the door. Once attachment forms, the dynamic shifts. The warmth becomes intermittent. Praise alternates with criticism. Affection appears and disappears unpredictably. This unpredictability is not random. It mirrors one of the most powerful conditioning systems known in behavioral psychology: intermittent reinforcement. When rewards are inconsistent, attachment intensifies. If someone were cruel all the time, you would leave. If someone were kind all the time, you would feel secure. But when kindness and cruelty alternate without warning, your nervous system becomes hyper-vigilant. You begin scanning for the return of the good version. You press the lever again and again, hoping the next pull will deliver the person you met in the beginning. This is not weakness. It is neurobiology. Your brain becomes bonded, not to love, but to the cycle. Over time, gaslighting often enters the picture. Gaslighting is not simply lying. It is the systematic erosion of your confidence in your own perception. Events you clearly remember are denied. Statements are reframed. Your emotional reactions are labeled excessive. Gradually, you begin to outsource your reality to the very person distorting it. Chronic exposure to this dynamic keeps your stress system activated. Your mind feels foggy. Decision-making slows. You may even wonder if you are losing your grip. You are not. You are adapting to a destabilizing environment. There is another uncomfortable truth here. You were not chosen randomly. Predatory personalities are highly sensitive to certain signals. High empathy, high agreeableness, a tendency to forgive quickly, discomfort with asserting needs. If you struggle to take up space, you create space for someone else to dominate. If you instinctively search for the good in people, you may overlook early red flags. This does not make you foolish. It makes you high-yield supply. And that phrase may sound harsh, but it is not an insult. It is a recognition of your capacity. You might even catch yourself envying their emotional detachment. It can look like power. They appear fearless in confrontation, unburdened by guilt, efficient in competitive environments. But there is a cost rarely discussed. When you blunt affective empathy, you do not selectively turn off pain. You dull connection. The same circuitry that allows you to feel another person's suffering also allows you to feel trust, tenderness, and awe. A system optimized for dominance is often impoverished in intimacy. They may win arguments, but they frequently lose depth. So what do you do with this information? First, stop trying to repair hardware with warmth. You cannot teach affective empathy to someone whose structure resists it simply by loving harder. Second, shift from moral outrage to clinical clarity. When they rage, see narcissistic injury. When they lie strategically, see Machiavellian calculation. When they smile at your discomfort, see the reward loop. Their behavior is data. It is not a verdict on your worth. Here is the part that may challenge you. As long as you keep believing that one more explanation will awaken their conscience, you remain attached to the fantasy. Let that fantasy go. It is not cruel. It is realistic. In the next part, we will move from diagnosis to defense. But before you continue, pause and ask yourself an honest question. Have you been trying to win connection in a game that was always about control? If that question unsettles you, good. Stay with me. Download the checklist in the description and start observing patterns instead of promises. Awareness is not cynicism. It is the first step out of the maze. There is a strange relief that comes when you finally stop asking why they do it and start asking how they are built. The moment you understand that you were trying to solve a hardware problem with emotional software is the moment the spell begins to break. You were playing for connection. They were playing for control. Those are not the same game. This truth may sting at first. It forces you to let go of the fantasy that one perfect explanation or one final heartfelt conversation would awaken their conscience. But releasing that fantasy is not giving up. It is reclaiming your clarity. Their behavior was never a measure of your worth. It was a function of their structure. Machines do what they are designed to do. You were not targeted because you are weak. You were targeted because you are high-yield empathy. You carry warmth, depth, and forgiveness in abundance. That light belongs to you. It was never meant to power someone else's ego. Here is your next step. Stop arguing with promises and start observing patterns. Download the checklist. Document what you see. Shift from hope to evidence. In the next video, we will move into strategy and defense. But for now, breathe. The truth does not make you bitter. It makes you free.